Welcome to tonight's episode of A Can of Worms. I'm Nicole Dmytriw, and with me is Hayley Wilkinson speaking about today's hot topic, discrimination in sport. We have seen and heard of many incidents in today's society relating to race, culture and ethnicity. So Hayley, what does all this mean?
Well, Nicole, ethnicity refers to a particular cultural heritage that is used to identify a category of people. So relating to factors such as nationality, culture, ancestry, language and beliefs. Australia is a country that attracts immigrants, which results in a wide range of ethnic groups making up our population. It can be due to each group's different beliefs and culture that discrimination occurs. Culture consists of the ways of life that people create as they participate in a group or society. In Australian society, there are many different cultures, for example, the Indigenous Australian sporting culture. Let's have a quick look at a clip now that outlines that discrimination is improving due to the inclusion of different races, cultures and ethnic groups in the sporting industry.
Anyone who's associated with the AFL, and we here in particular who get to administer the game, understand and are now starting to fully appreciate the significant contribution that the Indigenous population makes to this incredibly unique Indigenous game. Knowledge, experience and culture of Indigenous people and what they bring to our football community.
As seen in the film clip, the Indigenous race make up a percentage of the sporting culture. Race refers to a person's physical appearance. Differences in race can be seen through individual skin colour, eye colour, hair colour and bone and jaw structure. Due to these physical appearances, it has caused many problems worldwide, particularly in the sporting industry. Racism in sport has led to a wide range of controversial incidents that we see and hear about in the media. Racism does damage to sport and brings the game into disrepute. It can affect people's lives and stop them playing sport and be unlawful and have a harmful effect on cultural identity.
Discrimination is difficult for associations and clubs to deal with, but they need to have guidelines and procedures to minimise discrimination against racism, ethnicity and culture. Sporting clubs should be a place where people from all backgrounds can gather and break down the barriers of discrimination. To help with this, players should be encouraged to support people of all races, different cultures and ethnic groups. Have fair processes for dealing with complaints, give players a code of conduct and provide training for umpires. Racism is unlawful under federal, state and territory and discrimination legislation. Now let's have a look at how American discrimination is displayed in the film The Blind Side.
Do you have anywhere to stay tonight? Don't you dare lie to me, boy.
Why'd you do this for me?
What?
Everything. Was it for you or for me? Was it to go to school where you wanted? Was it so I'd do what you wanted me to do? Why'd you do it?
What?
All along you wanted me to go to Ole Miss.
Of course I do. We love Old Miss.
Is she right?
Michael, honey, I need for you to listen to me, alright?
Don't you dare lie to me.
You grab me out here with that horse collar shit, you're gonna get flagged and I'm gonna be pissed! They'll be terrified till they realize he's a marshmallow. Looks like Tarzan, plays like Jane.
You'll thank me later.
The highlighted scenes we just performed were from the movie The Blind Side. The Blind Side is about an American high schooler called Michael Orr, who after a rough childhood is adopted by a white Christian family and is introduced to American football, which he has an excellent natural ability for. The movie explores the topic of racism when Michael is being looked at for a college football team, and people begin to wonder if his parents had only adopted him so that he could play for their old college team, Old Miz.
The three scenes in which we portrayed were highlighted for the reasons that we believe they showcase multiple facets of racism. The first scene is dramatised for the fact that Michael could speak. There was also the problem of a Christian family taking an African American child. We believe that this doesn't matter, as a family such as the Tuohys would take any child in Michael's position. The racism that could be depicted from this would be typically that African Americans are poor and are associated with the culture that is shown by the whereabouts of Michael's upbringing. That this is stereotypical, when it is just the facts of what happened in a true story. The second scene displayed was where Michael questioned what impact the Tuohys had on his life, whether they had chosen the path that they wished that for him, as he was good at football. This shows that the Tuohys may have paid vast expenses in order to persuade him to play for their college. Whether or not, if he was white, they would have done the same thing, is a question which has sparked much debate. Our beliefs on this are that they would have tried just as hard, and any family in the same position would have tried to help their child reach a Division 1 school, and therefore would have emulated their actions. The third scene is the typical stereotype that the African American athlete is instinctive and not intelligent. This is extremely dramatised and does not show a good example of what really happened. Michael knew the basics of the game, whereas the coach showed in this movie thinks he resembles a marshmallow. This is extremely poor by the producers of the movie, as they try to heighten the change in Michael's academics. This is a clear example of how indirect racism can be displayed in movies to increase the experience of the viewers. This strengthens people's ideas on the stereotype that these athletes are not intelligent.
Welcome back to A Can of Worms. Racism, culture and ethnicity is a controversial topic in sport, which leads us to our next question. Do you think that discrimination in Australian sport in terms of race, ethnicity and culture is improving in today's society? Let's see the responses and crack this can of worms.
Ooh, shit.
Why do you think yes, Hayley?
I think it's improving in society these days because in sports you see a lot more people that are of different races and different cultures. So in terms of sports like soccer, you've got a lot of different nationalities, a lot of different cultures all playing in the one team. So you might have Australians, Chinese people, your Irish players, all those different cultures all coming together and playing. So it's kind of reducing like the racism and discrimination against individual different cultures and that. Another example is in the AFL, you see a lot more of the Aboriginal players playing these days and getting a fair go. Although racism, racism does still occur, but in sporting organisations now there's laws to prevent and to minimise this from occurring and happening so often. The Liam Jarrah situation with Melbourne at the start of the year, you saw Melbourne supporting him, and instead of dropping him when things turned bad, he was still able to play with their VFL side, was just banned from playing with the AFL for the rest of the season. So that's why I think it's improving.
It's very interesting, Hayley.
Good points.
Very good point.
Yeah.
And why do you think no, Darcy?
Well, I think it has improved in terms of the large sporting organisations such as AFL, NRL, and with playing with the players, as it's easier to speak out except, like, in terms of, like, people are still saying that the players are more instinctive, and the commentators always tend to refer to these comments, so it's like indirect racism is still a large part of the sports. So, as a player from my area in Warrnambool, I was often associated with indirect racism. There was a main area where this occurred when my cousin, who's an AFL player, was found with cocaine in his car. This was not his, obviously, as he lives in a large household with many. Whereas, like, for them, it only takes us one person in a large group that can make a standout. So when I went to training, there was a lot of racism directed towards me, as like one person from the group had done this. However, with other Australians, if there was one, say, person that was associated with drugs, there would not be such an outroar as what there was amongst my community. There's also, when I'm playing, racism directed towards other players that I play with, from fans, coaches, and players within the team and others. That's why I believe that racism may have improved in large sporting organisations within players, but not leadership groups, administration, coaching, or within rural areas of sporting codes.
Very well done, Darcy.
So,
Very good points. Deckers, why do you think yes?
Yeah, look, good point there, Nicole.
Thank you.
I believe that in today's society, discrimination regarding someone's ethnicity, race or culture has greatly improved due to the implementations of many laws, such as the Racial Hatred Act of 1998. If you've heard of that one, I'm sure you have, Hayley.
Yes, I had Declan.
Good
It's a
one.
very good law. And basically that law states that, which allows people to complain about racially abusive behaviour in sport. The use of this act was evident earlier in the year with Collingwood player Dale Thomas, which I'm sure you know all about, Darcy.
yes, I do.
Yes, where his opponent on the field was being racially abused by a Collingwood supporter. And basically Dale Thomas went and reported the supporter, and he had since been banned from the Collingwood membership group. Do you have any?
This is where I was saying before, in terms of large organisations, that this can easily be identified and spoken about, and actions can be taken. But in rural areas such as where I was playing, fans often do the same thing, and they do not get found out for this.
Very good points, guys. But I'll also have to agree with yes. I think racism will always be around, but I think it has greatly improved. In the past, the only Aboriginal players that made the AFL were quick and small. These Aboriginals were stereotyped into just being fast players, so clubs recruited these players for their speed. Now times have changed, and clubs have noticed that there are other Aboriginals that are just as good in key positions, e.g. Lance Franklin and Adam Goods. These players don't have great speed, which clubs believe that this could be their only role. The stereotypes of Aboriginal people have changed. Thank you very much, guys. That is it for a can of worms.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool.